Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. What is grant writing? And normally, whenever it comes to this discussion, that we have to discuss about the planning, writing, so that you will be having a maximum chances to win a grant. So this is very important thing which mostly people just ignore, and we will discuss all about its importance, what it can give it to you, and how you can get benefit through it. So all these discussion we will sum up that one into different points, and we will also discuss different valuable things that which are important in this grant writing. So we will be discussing everything about planning and writing a winning grant proposal. So for that, we will be doing what? We will be going through a step-by-step approach. We will discuss every single point, that how to apply for the grants, what are the approaches, and many other things like that. And then we will also discuss about the 14 steps, 14 essential steps which are required for the grant proposal, because if you have those points, then you can easily explore a lot of things regarding the same thing. And then also we will be discussing about the most important tips. There will be some important tips that how we can go for the grant writing, and those tips will help you to modify and to customize and manage and finalize your grant in a best way. So when we will be going for all this discussion, so let's start with that without wasting any time about this. So introduction about the grant. So whenever it comes to the introduction, so we would like to cover all those areas which are mainly related in this specific thing. And in that we will be discussing that why should we start writing grants, and what is this grant proposal, and who should write that, and how should we manage that, and when and where we should use all those things. So if you will see these things, so there are a lot of organizations. Earlier it used to be a concept that only non-profit organization or non-government organizations, they normally apply for grants, but whereas this concept has been entirely changed now. Why? Because you will see that whenever there will be grants, then they will show you that who are eligible. So in that eligibility criteria, they will also tell you that either we need non-profit organization or non-government organization. Sometimes even they will ask that government should also apply for the grants. Like if there are some international funding and international donors and funders are present, they will also ask for the charitable organizations, small welfare organizations. It can be like community-based organization, which most of the countries that they have like community-based organization, which is also known as CBOs and COs, like community organizations. And same is the concept when all these things are going on. So different countries have their registration in a different way. So anybody who are in this category, so they are eligible. Plus there are also some announcements of the grants, and you will see this thing. They are saying this thing that we will provide these grants to individual consultant. So it means consultant is being an individual or sometime being a firm. They are also eligible for this. And the next thing, that all those people who are also having the next criteria, for example, like there are researchers, individual or students or scholars, like they are also having different type of grants. So now discussing about all these grants, so it means this thing that there is a wide horizon of this thing, that a lot of people are eligible for the grant thing. And if they are eligible, so how can we write that? And all those people who are writing grant, what they are getting. So I myself, like I started working on grant and grant proposals like since 2003. So I have been writing all those things and associated with a lot of organizations which were like UN organization, UN based agencies, and plus like US Department of State and many other agencies which are related to that, like OSAID and many other British councils, stuff like that. We will be discussing all of them. So all those people who are connected to this grant writing, they normally make minimum like $100 per hour, and plus there are a lot many other also, like people are making a lot money in this thing. So if you know that if you just want to take it as a profession, as a freelancer, you can also avail this opportunity. Or if you are having your own organization, or if you want to write something about your department, so we will be discussing all those things. So in grant, definitely it is not necessary that you should all the time apply for the grants, because there are pros and cons of everything. Sometime I'm not saying that there are like disadvantages, but disadvantages, it is not a disadvantage to apply for a grant, but sometimes some organizations will be strongly dependent on the grants most of the time. And in case if there is a cut in the grant, so what will those organizations will do? So they have to prepare themselves in a different way. So they should be having, like, even if they are non-profit organization, they should be having a sustainability component, which we will also discuss in this specific thing, that in this grant proposal, because these all steps are very important. If you know about all these steps, then you will be easily in a situation to modify different things. So like if you will start creating your own activities and you will generate some sort of income, but still, like, as there is a difference between like profit and non-profit organizations. So in profit making organizations, how they are working, and non-profit making organizations, we will discuss that in the budget portion also. So while coming to all these things, so now who are funders, like where you can find them, we will also discuss those things in further detail. There are some like US Department of State, OSAID, like UN agencies, or GIZ, like in German, and British Council, and so on and so forth. Like there are a lot of donor organizations, they are present. And plus there are some foundations also. Like foundations are mostly, like most of the time it is being constructed like this, that large corporations, and these large corporations like they normally do what they do, this thing that they create their own foundations, and through that foundations people will come and they will apply for the grants, and then after that they will start doing this thing. So now grant, what the specific word about the grant is this thing that it is a kind of money. There are a lot of meanings and definitions, but according to grant proposal, I am telling you that what is grant. It is a kind of like resources or money or funding which any specific organization, association, or federation, or like it can be government, it can be any other international donor organization, they will provide that thing for specific a project or specific reason or specific activity which is in the process. So normally they do this thing, and it is a kind of like easy technique, like where people can do all those things. And then further, the next second most important thing is what? The second most important thing is this, that where you will be discussing that understanding about the basics of the grant. So this is step 2, because we discussed that we will be discussing about the 14 steps, understanding about the basic steps of the grants. So here you will be doing what when you will be writing. So first of all, you will be doing what? Grant giving organizations tend to seek the candidates which are what? Like which are normally, we will be discussing that one step by step, have a clear, definable and relevant mission. So this is very important. Like every organization, like if you are individual or organization or consultant or researcher or any other profit or non-profit organizations, government organization, or any department or institutions, educational institution, so you should have a definable and plus like relevant mission in order to that specific grant that you are applying for, because those donors will be looking after that, and are driven by the specific project goal and plans. And plus also you should have like maintain the adequate financial and operational structure. So if you have all those things, so normally organizations are doing what, like they are having this concept, because understanding the basic grant writing, for that you should know some basic important steps for that. And further, like in the continuation to the same, that what further they are looking for, they will be looking after for like use of the modern fundraising tools and method. It is not like this that somebody has written one grant, like as I mentioned, like I started writing grants in 2003. At that time the situation was entirely different, and these days it is entirely different. So structures are changing, and the tools are changing, the methods are continuously changing, and they are changing the different methods. Like maybe there were not like that much sustainability component, or maybe a lot of monitoring tools were not present, but these days these are present. And plus there are a lot of softwares also. Some organization may need, ask you for using their own software or their own websites or their own templates, and plus their own tools. Like, so you should be having all those things if you are interested to apply for such kind of grant. And further, like you will be having a possessing history of a successful project and initiative. So if you are not having that successful history of all those things, so again there will be a question mark, that there will be a lot of problems while you will be writing for the grants or you will be applying for the grants. In continuation to that, then retain a strong relationship with the community and peers, because it is also very important. There's organizations normally they are looking for all those organizations, individual or institutions, that they should be having these components. And when we will be done with that, so we will go towards the step 3, that in step 3 how we will discuss all those grant writing. In step 3 we will see this thing, that how to identify the problem, like identifying the problem that needs funding. because there are some problem maybe that is not in need of financing, or it is not in need of investment or stuff like that. But we will see here that what are those problems, and how can we agree on specific problem, and how can we decide that either this specific problem need to be funded, and by whom, and where, and how. These all things, first of all, we will do what, like we will agree on the problem, and for agreeing the problem we will involve all stakeholders. So whatever your specific problem is, your specific need is, so you have to see that who are the stakeholders, all those stakeholders who are directly or indirectly connected to the specific thing. You will be involving all of them like in specific problem, and then you will see that how they are connected, what is their specific connection and relationship. These things will help you in going through further description, and then you will do what, like describe the impact of your problem. Then you will also see that how it will impact the overall situation or your community or your stakeholders or whatever these things are. Then investigate the possible causes of those problems. And when you will be able to investigate the possible causes, so it means this thing that you are going to be agreeing on one specific problem. So the time when you will agree on one specific problem, so it means this thing that you have followed all these steps which we have just discussed, because it is important. That is the step 3 for out of 14 steps that which we are going to discuss. And now we are coming towards the step 4, and here we will be doing what, like we will be discussing and considering our audience, the purpose, the expectation of the proposal, and we will be discussing all those things, and then we will come to know that how we are going to manage these activities. So here we will be having different purpose, that who is your audience, because this is very important. You should specify your audience. You should know that who is your target audience and all those things, because if you don't know about that thing, so you will be having a lot of issues and problems while writing about your grants proposal. Next is like what are the particular expectations for these grants. Like you will discuss that what sort of expectations are present, like in specific reasons. Like you will explore all those things, because these expectations and this audience clarification, this is like important element where you will be setting your specific audience and going for their expectations for those specific grants. Like in those grants, like what do you need, and how do you establish your credibility, how you have created your credibility. And it can be done through your previous experience also, and it can be done through many other ways. Like it depends like in what mode or in what direction you are normally moving. So coming ahead to the next one, we will also see this thing that how can you clearly and logically present your plan. So these are few important steps, because these 14 steps out of 14 steps which we were discussing, so this one is the 4th one. And here you have specified your audience, your purpose, your expectation for that specific proposal, and then you are showing your credibility and all those stuff like that. So coming ahead and going towards the 5th step, and step number 5, that is describe what you hope to achieve. So when you will come to this specific area, then you will see that okay, whatever I had, and you are going to describe in those 4 steps that you understood all those 4 steps, because this is the 5th. In this 5th you will come to know they describe what you hope to achieve, what are your own expectations regarding your idea, that how you are going to address that specific problem when you will overcome all these things. So in that specific area you will be doing what, measuring the success in output and outcomes. So output and outcomes, again there is a lot of debate and discussions like how you are going to discuss the output and outcomes. Normally in output you will see that what will be your output out of your activity, out of your specific project, and how you are going to achieve that. And in output you will be looking after few specific things. In those things, what will be the situation? Mostly you will be discussing about the like there are 2 stuff, like one is qualitative and quantitative. If I will just easily in a simple word, if I want to explain that thing, so you will be looking for the like quantitative numbers, facts, percentages, and other numbers. You will be mentioning that one in your output. And outcome, where you will be discussing about the quality, and based on your that output, so you will be discussing all those things. So you will be discussing about the overall impact, that how you are going to see that thing and how you are going to achieve those things. And plus identify the key outcomes. You will also identify the key outcomes, then you will set the realistic and achievable outcomes and measure the record, the result of your work, and then when you will be done with that, then you have to focus on the end result. So all these steps are moving, and then next your step will come, that is step number 6, design your program. So in this designing a program, you will do what, like get expert opinion, because your expert opinions are always very important. You have to see that what people normally say and what are their views, because if somebody has done that specific work, or they're working on specific problems, so you have to explore their ideas, and you have to seek their opinions. If they will tell you their opinions, so it means this thing that they have already been to that specific route. So if somebody has already been to any specific situation, so while asking them, it will always help you. When it will help you, you will be able to design your project in a good way, and plus you will be doing this thing, that research what others have done. So this was the thing that I was telling, and get buy-in from the stakeholder, because this buy-in experience is always what, like, because in this situation you will ask the stakeholder that what were the challenges, what were the problems, why they got failed, and what they did. Like any other thing, like you have to get those things from them. Clearly describe your solutions. You have to clearly describe your solutions. When you will be done with that, then you will be coming to step number 7, and step 7 is this thing, that locate the findings resources. When you will come to this specific point, so I would like to also show you some of the specific sources after explaining a few points here. Like start with the organizations or the people that you know. For example, sometime if you know some people, so you have to discuss your situation with them. When you will be done with them, then after that, use the internet to research the funders. I will also tell you few sources stepwise. I will show you all those, that how you can find them here, and finding the right grant opportunities. If you are going for like wrong opportunities, then it is not of your job. And further, like there are finding right, maybe if your specific grant that you are looking for, it may be available with the federal grant program or endowments. Like if that is in that, you can go for that. Otherwise, like you can go for the state and municipal funded resources also. Next is like corporate giving programs also, and same I said that in corporate, like they have their own foundations also, and in those foundations we will discuss that what sort of foundations are present, and private grant giving foundations, all these things when you will be discussing. So now I will show you the situation, that how it can be done, and where you can see these resources. So in these resources, I will show you a few websites and few resources here. So first of all, like here, if you can see this thing, that this specific website is in front of you, and on this one you will see that they are mentioning that this is a grant specific website. And when you will click on the home, so you will see that they have all their information. So this is grant.gov. They have their own information, they have their own grant opportunities, and if you want to learn about the grant, that how to write about the grant and stuff like that, then you will be coming here and you will see this thing, that for example, if I will just click on one, and if you want to see that what is grant 101, grants 101, and you will click on that one, grant policies, eligibility and other stuff like that. And if in case you want to see the grant 101, so they are also mentioning this thing, like as they have their 3 phases, like pre-award phase, award phase and post-award phase, what you have to do and what will be your requirement in doing all those stuff. Same, if you want to search for your grants for your specific country, how you will be doing that thing, you will be writing, for example, like if you will write your own, like you will just write keywords. For example, you want to write like SUSI is like one program, and you want to search in that, and it will give you that what are the SUSI programs available for funding that you want to apply. Same is like, for example, if you want to write a country name here, so it will show you all those grants which are available for your specific country. In this one, you will be able to identify that which grant is available, what is the opportunity, and when is the closing date. We will just open like one specific grant and we will discuss about that. For example, like I have just opened one grant here, and in this grant is just telling you that what is the title of this specific grant and which department is providing this thing. And if you want to see the relevant documents, so here are the entire documents, and they have also given the entire templates that how to use those things. You will just download them and you will read about those things, so it will always help you. So such kind of information, it is just one website which is grant.gov, and same is like if you want to see the UN based grants, So in UN based grants also you can see that there are different grants, and it is just one sample of this specific grant, that how can you apply for this grants. And in this grant opportunity they are telling you entirely everything, that how you can manage them and how you can mobilize and all those things. So in these opportunities they will tell you what is the last date, what is the current date, and entire situation. Next, we will also see that, for example, if you will come to the main website of un.org, and in that UN.org, for example, you will select your own specific language, and whatever language you speak, so you will select that specific language, and then you will come and you will see on their website, so you will find a lot of their own grants which are available, and you can use them for different reasons. Then there is also one more source of funding, that which we were discussing, that OSAID. So in OSAID also you are having all these opportunities, there are again several grant opportunities, like there is Australian Aid Friendship Grant is available, and how can you apply for that, and what is the requirement and application available for the specific thing, and all these information when you will be having. So you will come to know that some organizations they have their own templates, and some organizations they will ask you to write your own. And this is again it is also Australian award, you will also provide, you will also be provided opportunity to search your grants according to whatever requirement you want to. This is a kind of research related. And next is here British Council, British Council own grants is also available, they have their own grants available, and in different areas how you are going to apply for different grants. In that one I'm just showing you for now just some sources that we were discussing. If you will go towards the German DARD and those scholarship, then it will also tell you that do they have research type grants or collaboration, or they want to do the partnership with somebody or some organizations. So these different grants that I am showing you, these grants can help you, that what we were discussing right now in that specific model. And there GIZ, there are further funding opportunities which are present here, and then they will also show you if you are looking for the further funding. And if you will come to this specific point, for example, again GIZ, they have opened one specific grant, and in this specific grant if you want to see, then they have their own document here, the tender document or their call for proposal, and you will just call for the proposal grant. You will just select that, and then after that you can apply for whatever grant you are looking for. So coming to the next situation, then you will also see that there is also foundations that we discussed, that some corporations are having their foundations, and through those foundations people can apply. So this is a Gate Foundation, which is also known as Bill Gates Foundation and Gate Foundation. So in this Gate Foundation, if you will come, so you will see that there are again different opportunities, and in those opportunities what type of opportunities available, and when it was being published, you will click every single activity, and in that specific activity they will tell you how to apply for this specific grant. And when you will start applying for this specific grant, then they will tell you that overall description, how you have to apply, and all these things. So it is just a brief discussion that what we were doing regarding the grants and stuff. That was one of our step, and now the next step which we will be discussing here, that is your step number 7. And in step number 7 we will be discussing different things which are located to funding that in connection to the sources of funding that we were looking for. Here you will be doing what? You will be having your own question to ask when to review funding sources. You have to ask these questions from you, and you have to address, for example, do you want to work with this organization, all those organizations which I have just shown it to you. You have to specify that which organization you are interested into. Does it typically fund the organization and project like yours? If it is, so you have to go ahead and then see and do you qualify for the particular program, because every specific program has their own eligibility criteria, their own requirements. They will write all those things, so you have to see that either they are related to you or not. Can you meet all the grant requirements? And if you be in a position to meet all the grant requirements, then you should go ahead and establish a relationship with the grant program officer, because sometimes it is necessary that you have to ask them. For example, if you have any query and you don't know either I am eligible or not, either I can do this specific thing or not, you have to ask them. and they will be having their contact detail most of the time, and they will sometimes, like, they will just provide you the email ID. Sometimes they will also provide you the contact number that you can call them directly. And if they are in your community and you know their office, so you can visit them and meet them and see that what is the basic requirement, involve your funder into your project and discuss your idea. Maybe they will tell you, maybe they will modify, maybe they will tell you that no, this is not this is not appropriate, because most of the people, they are saying this thing that let's suppose we will discuss one project, and they are saying that if I am applying for the specific grant, I need to give a lot of salaries to people. Maybe in that project they are saying don't give salaries, or maybe they are saying don't build structures, or we will not pay for the office. If you already have the office, then we will provide you grant, otherwise not. So it depends that which kind of grants that you are looking for, and when you will connect yourself with the grant office, and you will ask you few questions to clarify and correct your things. And most of the time, if you are going for the federal funding like US Department of State or some other, they have given the entire detail in so complete with the complete description, and even they have, like, most of the time frequently asked questions also, and they will specify every specific detail. So those organizations which have their details, that is excellent. If they don't have their detail, then you have to connect yourself with the funding sources. And step 8, where we will be discussing, go through the grants, because this element, step 8, every single step that we have been discussing, they all are equally important. If you will miss any specific step, so it means this thing that either you don't know about the grant, or you don't know about the sources of the funding, you don't know about the basic requirements. All these things are important, so each step is important at its own level. So step 8, as we were discussing, that go through the grant, consider like doing what you have to consider doing few steps which are important. Understand the grant application, so you have to read that specific grant application in too much detail, and read it and understand that, underline that one, take notes and see this thing, that it means this thing. Most of the time, if you will understand their grant application and grant like offer which they have announcement, so if you will read that specific thing, it will help you more than 50% to structure your specific idea. And maybe you will be able, the same application will also give you a lot of ideas that okay, this is also an idea, you can do this thing. So do read the announcement and understand the grant application, prepare a summary statement that what you need to do, and then after that determine if your proposal is a type of a specific project that the grantor actually funds. Maybe if it is not, then never go for that. It should have the following, like your grant should have the following things. If they don't have these things, so it means this thing that then there is again a problem. A brief explanation of yourself or the organization, it depends, because I mentioned this thing earlier. It used to be the concept that people used to say that non-profit organizations are eligible for the grant only, but these days it is entirely changed. Non-profit, non-government, government organizations, individual, consultant, researcher, and even students, faculty, professionals, everybody has their own grant opportunities available. So if it is individual based, so you have to explain about yourself, and if it is organization based, then you have to explain about the organization. So when you will be done with that, then you your project and what you intend to achieve, like if your project you are writing, what you intend to achieve and how you will achieve those things. And when you will tell about all those things, then definitely you will be also having the opportunity, the amount that you need for that specific project, and how would you be going to use that thing, and that specific amount, specific budget, specific requirement that you are telling them, you have to justify that thing in these steps, that what I am telling you now in step number 9, that how to write your proposal. Because in writing your proposal, then you have to follow a few instructions, and those instructions are what? Those instructions, like whatever their instructions are available in the application, you have to read them and study their criteria in full detail, and see that what are their criteria, who is eligible, not, and what are the requirements. Maybe you will partner with some organizations. If you will partner with some organization, that is a good deal. And maybe they will tell you that we can have 2 or 3 implementing partners also. Then you can make a consortium in your specific area, or with the other researcher, or with the other consultants, or with the other individual. It depends, like what is that specific grant. So when you will study the criteria, so you will come to know about the first draft, and you will write your first draft. And in that first draft, don't think that how your idea is going to finish, and you should not think about the structure here in the first draft. Just write whatever you know about the instructions, about the criteria, about the announced program, about the application. Just keep on writing your ideas and everything. When you will be done with your first draft, all those things, then after that you will clearly lay out the specific goals and make it shine. If it is not presentable, so definitely then it is useless. And use a checklist to make sure that application is complete, because most of the time whenever any grant is announced, so in the end they will mention a checklist that you have to tick every single thing that if you have done. So if there is no checklist, then you will do what, like you will create your own checklist, and then you will tick every single point that okay, I have done this thing, I have done this thing, and so you will create a checklist so that you should not miss any single thing. Because most of the time it happens that when you are submitting your grants, they are saying that in case that if you have anything missing in your application, we will not accept. So the grantors mostly see this thing, and you have to be extra vigilant and careful while deciding about the specific thing. And then consider hiring a professional writer if needed. If you have professional writer, or if you yourself is a good you are good enough about this thing, then excellent. If you don't have it, you should consider, and you should try to hire, because grants mostly they value a lot, and there are a lot of grants which can be ranging from different areas. Like small grants, it can be from within like 10,000, 5,000 US dollar or any other currency, and then medium and large, and there are also some grants like which are like 300 million, 800 million dollar. So it depends like what type of grant you are writing, and then you should see that either you want to learn, you want to hire a person, or you want to do what. So when you will be done with all those things, then you will definitely go for your next this process, and in the same process you will edit everything carefully. It is in the same continuation of your step number 9, as we were having total 14 steps. So these 14 steps are important for your proposal. So you have to edit everything carefully, review your proposal and the requirements, that whatever requirements are present in that, so you have to see those things and proofread everything very carefully. So if when you will be done with that thing, then you will also provide your specific proposal, that whatever you have written, just give it to the cold reader, and cold reader will always do what, he or she will always give you the honest opinion, the critical views, the future things, that what is going to happen. And that person mostly has an idea that how this thing will work, and he or she must be having that like technical background of specific thing, because there are proposals are dependent on their size. It is different. Some proposal may be of like 3 to 4 pages, and sometimes they just call it like grant letter also, and sometimes they just announce it like a short proposal also. And sometimes when you are being asked by some bigger projects, where they will ask you, and even their template and their requirement, which will be like 100 plus pages. So it depends like what type of proposal, but whatever you have written, just give it to the cold reader, so that he or she will tell you exactly what are the plus and minus of your specific project, how you can improve, what are the things which can be done. So when you will be done with all those things, do a reality check. Because a reality check, most of the time people are saying they are over ambitious, they will write something in a strange way which is not achievable at all. So do a reality check, that either that whatever your specific project is it good enough or not, and can you meet the deadlines. If you can meet the deadline, that is excellent. If you cannot meet the deadline, because projects also have specific time, specific duration, and they may be having specific purpose, and in that specific purpose and objectives, they will ask the people that come on, submit the application. If you are going to work in any of these areas, and your mission and your objective and your everything is related to us, then they may consider you. And if your things are not related to them, then they may not consider you at all. So all these steps, when we discussed about the step 9, and now coming to the step 10, which is a kind of interesting in a way, because here most of the time people only and only they see this area. They say that we have to organize and finalize, but they ignored the 9 steps. So if you have reviewed 9 steps, you know some basics, so it means this thing that you are good enough. You can now work on the step number 10, where you will be organizing your grant and you'll be finalizing your grant. So out of all these grants and all these opportunities, we will be doing what? Like, we will be doing this thing that here in step number 10, you will organize and finalize your grant proposal. So first thing is like your title, second is your cover letter, and in cover letter, like I'm just telling you so quickly here so that you can just see everything, like address your cover letter and individual, making sure that you like they are the correct person, whosoever that you are addressing, they should be the correct person that you are writing your letter to. And limit your cover letter to 1 page with the 3 or 4 paragraph, it depends, like whatever the situation is, go according to that. Include a statement of support for the project from your own board of director, and if all those things are present, so you should consider that. And if you are individual, then this step is not required, the third one was not required. But if you are representing one organization, then you should go. And if you are institute, then in institute you should go for the senior management, all those things. And don't include a cover letter in the federal, because most of the time in federal or the grant statement, that application, because most of the time they never ask. But sometime if they will ask you, then you can add the cover letter, otherwise not, because some organization will ask you for cover letter and some will not. Some foundations will ask you for that and some will not. It depends. You have to see their criteria and you have to see their requirements and everything. When you will understand all those things, so it means this thing that you have done the first 2 parts, that was title and cover letter. Then next step will come in the same, that is like organizing and finalizing your grant. In that one, your third step is executive summary. So what will be present in executive summary? In executive summary, you will write about, identify your organization, and you have to introduce about your briefly in that specific, and include your mission statement, short, no need if you have very long mission, so don't need to mention a very long, but just take the main crux of that and mention that one in the executive summary. And then next step is like your emphasize on the key points of your specific grant proposal, and those key points are related, you have to see this thing, that if you have few key points, are they connected to the announcement or the grant application which is being announced? So you have to emphasize wherever there is a coherence, where there is a relationship, you have to emphasize on those points a lot. Although if you are working on something, but those points or those mission or those objectives, if they are not connected to the announcement of the grant or the grant itself, then that will be useless. If you will emphasize on useless key points, that is not any other point. So but you have to emphasize on those key points which are being requested or which are being announced, and you are applying for that specific grant. So you will emphasize on all those things. Clearly communicate the need of your program, because this is again that what is the need of that specific program in this executive summary. State the cost of the project. Here you will just mention the cost, that how much you are going to request for, and what will be the total duration that you will complete this specific thing. And plus also you will mention this thing, that what are the expected results that you want from this specific project. So this was the part of executive summary, and now we will come towards the fourth step in the organizing, that is like point number 4, where is it is in total it is step number 10, that is organizing and finalizing your grant. So here you will do what you will discuss about the statement of need, and sometimes people call it like statement of problem. Sometimes people say this thing, that problem statement or need statement. It depends, like different applications have given them different names, and different people say different names to them. But you have to see again the criteria and application requirement. Based on whatever they are asking, you have to modify your wording according to that. Make sure your statement of need is well written and readers friendly. Use the quantitative data, that is statistical analysis, trend and expert views that support your arguments, like because these things will definitely help you, that how you can achieve all those things. So these requirements, when you will be doing all those steps here, then next we will be doing what? Reference reputable research, because most of the time if you will discuss few models and few theories in this problem, And if they are not being backed by any research or any experiment or any type of research, I'm not saying that it can be only like theoretical or academic. It can be action research, it can be like experimental, it can be any other research, but you have to mention the reference, and you have to support your specific problem, that whatever you are discussing, you have to support that one with the proper references and sources, so that whatever data you are going to discuss and your argument will be valid enough in that. And explain the time frame, why sourcing, like all those things, like why there is a critical issue in that. So when you will be done with that, then you will come to the next point, and that is your goal and objectives, because your goal and objective, that is also an important element in organizing and finalizing your grant proposal. So in goal and objective, you will be doing what? You will be using like quantifiable terms, and which can be measured, which can be calculated, which can be judged, which can be practiced, and which can be achieved. All those things are very important, and identify who and what are your objectives, and what your objectives will serve, and they will serve whom, how it will serve the people. So most of the time I've seen like people are doing what, like when they are writing about the grant and goal and objectives, there is no connection. So it is always very important that from point one to point last, whatever your points are, they have to be connected. Like whatever your goal is and how you can achieve this goal, you will write your specific objectives. Don't list like 100 plus objectives which is not achievable. If you have 2 or 3 valid things, then you have to mention that thing. And when you will mention all those things, then you will be appropriate enough and you will be good enough to achieve your specific targets. So you will do all those things, mention them, and those objectives should be like achievable, realistic, measurable. And when it will be measurable, achievable, realistic, then definitely you are meeting the requirement. Objective should be like consistent with your statement of the need, because as I've mentioned this thing, that your every single step should follow the previous one. If they are not following the previous one, so it means this thing that the reader or the grantor or the funder will lose the track, and he or she or it or like whosoever they are, they will never fund that. So it depends like what is going on. So we have to be extra vigilant and careful, like while we are doing all these things. In continuation to the same of the organizing and finalizing your grant proposal, now you will discuss about the methods. In methods or strategies, or you can say that program design. So in program design, you will be doing what? Be explicit, and further you have to explain that why the method you have selected are the best to achieve your objectives. You have to justify that thing, and if you are unable to justify that thing, then again there will be a problem. State the supplies and equipment resources you will be using for this project, including who will perform the specific task, because here you are going to discuss every single detail which is related to your method or strategies or program design, because the reader or the grantor is going to look after that. He or she will clearly or review every single point, and then they will see that either they are in a position to do some work or not. If your strategies or method or program design is not appropriate enough, so the funder or the grantor will easily understand that, and they may not fund your project. So that's why these things are important. And include your timeline. A timeline, like you should include your work plan or other strategies, like all those strategies, that whatever, like how you are going to connect yourself with which organization and who will be your stakeholders, how you are going to partner with people, if you are going to work in 5 areas, 10 areas, or your entire state or province, or maybe on national level. It depends, like whatever your design was, whatever your objectives were. So based on those, either your strategies are good enough to achieve your all those things. So this design and this model and the strategies will definitely define that whatever you have written previously in your need and goal and objectives. So it will give you a ground that either you are going for the appropriate way or not. In same step number 10, you will also be having a next point, and that next point is your monitoring, evaluation, and research. Sometimes people call it MER, sometimes people call it MNE. It depends like what kind of project you are writing, and sometimes people will just write evaluation. But what is most important thing in the monitoring and evaluation, that you have to make sure that whatever you are going to use, that specific, make sure that this section is consistent with your specific method and objectives. So that program design and goal and objectives and need statement, all those things should be consistent with this. If you have taken your any standard monitoring and evaluation paragraph and you will put that one in the grant writing, so that is wrong, because it cannot tell you that either whatever you have written, can it measure that, can it evaluate that thing, is there any proper evaluation or monitoring method for that? Because monitoring and evaluation method in any project, it is mostly meant for what? It is mostly meant for this thing, that you want to help out in the project. You are a kind of facilitator. Monitoring and evaluation is a kind of facilitation. It is kind of controlling, correcting, improving. The main role of this monitoring and evaluation is that. So that's why you have to be consistent with whatever you have written, and state that how this evaluation will measure the whether that you will meet your objectives or not, and state how you will use the findings, like all those findings. If you have the data and people are coming and they are giving you the data, so how will you use them? And if you don't know how to use those things in your monitoring and evaluation tools, then again that is a useless thing. There are a lot of research softwares. Sometimes if you don't want to go for very complicated thing, if you don't want to go for like HEVUs, Stata, or any other SPSS or any other thing, you can use a normal frequency also. It depends like what kind of work you are doing. I'm not saying that use the frequency analysis all the time. It depends like how you are going to collect the data, how you are going to manage that data, how you are going to analyze that, and how you are going to generate reports, which will also help the funder also and your own team also, and how we can make sure that this specific project will achieve the exact output while you are working in your community or any other area, that whatever your target audience is. So next is like, in the same, you have to specify whether you will conduct an internal evaluation or you will hire somebody from outside. So it is dependent on your own organization or being an individual, if you do that one by your own self or you call someone else. Again, it is dependent on this thing, that what sort of this grant proposal you are working on. Either you are individual, profit making, like non-profit, or government, or like non-government. It can be religious or non-religious or any other type of organization, individual, consultant, whosoever they are. So based on them, you will decide that either you are going to have your own monitoring and evaluation template or you are going to hire somebody else. If you already have a big organization and you have your own team, so specify them, like we have a separate department of monitoring and evaluation, we have all these people, how we are collecting the data, write all that method, and then mention this thing that based on this project, how we are going to achieve our goal, objectives, and whatever those problems are, and how we are going to address them, and how we will meet our requirements. So it will definitely help a lot. And in this previous one that I was telling you, that M&E plan, you have to mention also your performance monitoring plan, which is also known as PMP, and logic model. Because even if they are not asking about the logic model, but you have to provide the logic model, because these monitoring and evaluation, even if somebody has not mentioned that we need evaluation also, but you have to mention all these things. Why? Because it will give them a kind of justification that your work is good enough, and you know that how you are going to control them, monitor them, and help those things to improve your further results. So indicator sheets, results framework, and further like tracking sheets and reference sheets, these all are available also if you want to see them. Those websites which I have shown, so every specific organization, they have their own requirements. You can check them there also. If you don't want to check them there, you can search that one online also in a general category, and then people will help you that how it can be done. Further, when we will come to the next one, that how the data will be collected, managed, and analyzed, and then further you will also discuss about the reporting and communication, because that is an important element in the monitoring and evaluation, or which we can say that M&E. In same, we will discuss the next point, that is project sustainability. Because in project sustainability, if you are writing a grant proposal and you are not discussing about the project sustainability, so then the funder or the grantor will be hesitant to explore that what will happen next. Like if this project is being ended in 1 year, so what will be the situation? will it be sustainable? Will this idea, will this concept, or will that theme will be continued? I'm not saying that this entire work should continue, but whatever the idea or the theme was, will people or you or any other person like for whom this project is going to be done, will it be sustainable? And how we can justify that thing? We can justify that thing with the different points, and that will be like outline specific future funding fundraising plans for your beneficiaries or maybe for your own self. It depends like what is the project that you are writing on. Provide a blueprint of how you will implement these plans, and plus like make sure that your plans are realistic and give them on that given resources. Also, you have to provide information on hiring additional staff or a freelance contractor if necessary. If not necessary, if it is not required, never go for that. So that last point that which I discussed, if it is required, well and good. If it is not required, don't just panic about that thing. And you can see all those points that I'm telling you, some points are really important with your specific idea, so you have to do that thing. Next, in the same, when you are organizing and finalizing your grant, so after your sustainability point which you discussed, the next point is your organizing, and that is like organizational information. So in organizational information, you will be mentioning what you will be writing overall, like whatever those concepts are in which you will be discussing about writing through the fund, that how, because that don't consider that any specific funder or donor know you, even if they know you, but you should consider yourself that they don't know me and I have to write and justify myself in a proper way so that they will understand us. And give your organization full legal name and its legal status, whatever that thing is. And then after that, you have to justify, you have to provide your brief history if you are old organization, if you are new, or if you are individual, if you have not worked anywhere before. But then you have to justify your knowledge and skills with that. And further, like you have to provide your mission and people you served in that past, if you have any working experience and your record and all those information. When you will be done with all those things, then you will come to the next thing. In case if you have this thing, that name of your board members, staff and volunteers, it is required in case of those non-profit, non-government, and sometime based on also religious type of organization or non-religious organization. It depends like what is there. So if you have those things, so you will mention those things, but most of the time in federal funding, and federal funding means it's like US Department of State funding or UN funding. In those fundings, they will not ask this information, but they will ask you that who are the key personnels. Like key personnels mean 2 or 3 people who will be leading the specific project. So what are their expertise? So you will write 2 or 3 persons. Like most of the time they will ask you about 1-pager CV. Sometimes they will ask you about 2-pager, and sometimes even they will ask you about 1 paragraph. Just mention 1 paragraph profile about 1 person. It depends. So again, when you are going to provide the organizational information, so do read the application requirement, and when you will understand the application requirement, then you will be in a position to justify every single thing. State your locations, and then after that, in that location, if you have your headquarters, side offices, or whatever those things are, you have to mention all those things. If you have side branches and all those details, so you will justify them, and if you don't have them, so you will also mention this thing that you don't have that one. Sometimes it is for like researcher or consultant, even if you don't have that, but you have to mention a physical address, that in case if they want to drop anything or courier anything, so it should reach to you. But for organizations, for institutions, they should mention all their details. But what I said in the end, that was about individual, consultant, students, or like somebody. If they don't have any office, they are freelancers or something like that, but still they have to mention any address where they can send you something in case if there is any documentation or stuff like that. And further, like include the financial information of your specific organization, such as your annual donations and budgets and all those details. You have to justify those things, and you have to provide those information to them, and it will help them definitely. The more you will give information, but I'm not saying don't give too much information or don't give too less information. So too much and too little information can destroy your grant proposal. You have to go with the requirement, with the things that whatever they have asked. Don't do like this, that they have asked you, for example, like 1 year annual report, and you will send them 10 years annual report. That is just like a stupidity, nothing else. Do what they have asked. Don't do more than what they have asked, but you have to provide the exact information which will justify your entire proposal, and these 10 steps will definitely help you. So in this category, next point is like our budget, and in this budget we are going to make sure that whatever figures you have mentioned, they are 100% accurate and there is no error. You have to mention like your specific whatever you are writing in that specific grant. In that one, you will also mention your costs, which are like direct cost, indirect cost, your expenses, your fringe benefit, your personnel cost, your travel cost. Next year budget only at that time. If let's suppose like you are submitting your proposal in the last quarter of this year, and next year is going to start after a month or 3 months, then you can submit your next year budget also. But if you are starting or if you are submitting a proposal, a grant proposal in the start, in the first or second quarter of that year, so then no need to submit your next year budget with that. But it depends. So you have to also provide in the budget the detail about the supplies, in case if there is any sort of logistic support or any other thing that, like which is also included in that direct cost. So you have to justify, and you have to also mention if you are going to have a cost sharing in this specific activity or not. It will also help the donor to understand, or the funder to understand, that how this thing is going to work and this budget is justifiable or not. It is all like easy. When you start working on that, you can find a lot of templates and a lot of things online also. And plus we'll also announce like a certification program for the grant proposal also. And that grant proposal, like you can just attend the entire course, then we will provide you some sort of like assessment questions. After that, if you are done with that, then we can also provide certification also, but that program we are going to announce soon. And next when you will be having all these criteria, then also in the same budget portion you have to justify what you have to state, all those indirect cost and overhead associated and administrative expenses also in the budget. Because the more perfect your budget is, so your budget should 100% align with your activities, with your framework, with your monitoring and evaluation, with your need statement, or everything whatever you have written. So whatever activities you have mentioned in budget, all those activities should be reflected, and it should be having a reflection. If it is not having reflection, then the donor will understand this thing, that okay, this project is just like being scrap, it is good for nothing. So just be 100% calculated whatever you are doing. Next in the same organizing and finalizing, you will be doing what, like time frame and work plan. Sometimes people will say time frame, sometimes they will use the work plan, and sometimes there are Gantt charts, and many other people have used different names for that. So it depends like whatever you are going to do. And additional required supplies and documents, in case if there is like any specific additional requirement, they might have mentioned this thing, that sometime if they need the annual report, so you have to submit, and if sometime they need your registration certificate, so you have to give that thing. And we will also discuss about some additional requirement when you are going for that, like DUNS number. Most of the time people don't have DUNS number, which is quite easy. Within 1 hour you can easily process that thing, and you can get your DNS number and SAM number, all those details. And further, if you will be defining the project budget, if they have asked about the narratives of that, then you will provide the narratives of that also. Produce a budget summary. If they have asked in the additional documentation, create budget and justification. And further, all those things, like when you will be coming, so add other documents as required. Whatever their requirement is, you will do that one according to that, otherwise not. So proofread everything again. It is also important element in this organizing and finalizing your grant. So you have to proofread everything again, double check everything so that you will not miss anything. Make a copy of your file so that it will make sure like that, okay, you are done and you can do things appropriately. Make sure your mail or the whatever that delivery you are going to do, that will reach and that will meet the deadline also, and it should reach to their office, either that is through email, either that is through delivery, courier services or whatever. It should reach to specific office on time. And these are just in step number 10, just few closing things which are follow up. You have to follow up for whatever proposal you have submitted. They might be having their email ID, so on that email ID you can write, if they have mentioned that, for example, like in 1 month or 2 months, normally the funder or the grantor, they write this thing that we will finalize this grant in 2 months. So in case if you will not hear within 2 months, then you should write an email and just let them know that you have submitted this proposal. What is the status? Is it accepted, not accepted, or does it need further changes or not? In that changes, like it will also, we will discuss this thing, that it will give it little time, keep the grantor informed that what is going on, be patient and don't be in hurry. If they have given you 2 months time, so wait for 2 months. Don't do like this, that you will start harassing them and sending them email right after submitting your proposal. So give them little bit time, whatever time they have given to you. So you will follow that sequence, and then you can do all those revision. And then after that, how you can revise your specific grant proposal, why it is necessary to revise your grants, because sometimes people are saying that I have written a grant, it was never funded and I will not do it again. So this step number 11 is very important, because you learn always from your mistakes and failures. Maybe you have mentioned few things in your grant which was not appropriate. So if donor or grantor is asking you to revise it, or you have realized this thing that the cold reader or any expert that you have given your proposal to, if they have suggested you few suggestions and few changes, so you have to revise it. And in that revision, like how you will be doing that thing, presented and compiling case, if that was not a compiling case, so you have to generate that one again. So these are few questions, and based on these questions you will come to know that what kind of revision do you need. Does your project seems to be feasible? If that is not feasible, revise it. Is it overly ambitious? If it is overly ambitious, don't submit that one, just revise it. Do something which is realistic, achievable and attainable. And does it have the other weaknesses? If any sort of weakness, if they have those weaknesses, so just eliminate them and try to improve those things where you can. So all this including like important steps where you will be stating the means of the grantor who can use the evaluate the success of your project. And after you have expected it, like whatever those things are, like you have to mention those details. You have to see that how things can be managed. So when you will be done with that, then step number 12, that is important element where you will be discussing that avoid few following things and avoid these things. What should we avoid in the grant proposal? In grant proposal, we should avoid the following, and those things are what? Failing to provide the exact, like your rational, realistic point and all those things. If you fail to provide such kind of information, then your project is good for nothing. So that's why, like, try to provide everything which is appropriate. And if you will fail to avoid the following also, what else you will avoid? Be overly ambitious. Avoid the thing, don't be overly ambitious, and avoid to be proposing unrealistic budget. Always avoid this thing. Don't overly project things so that people will get confused, and it will be a kind of putting a bad impression of your organization or you yourself on the people. And further, like leaving the idea undefined or underdefined. So all these things, this thing that when you will be discussing something, so you have to explain that thing completely and thoroughly, so that the grantor and the donor should know that you have completed everything. And further, like you have to provide, like providing too little detail or too much information, that is also bad. I told you that whatever is written in the grant application or in the grant announcement, so you have to follow all those steps. When you will be done with that, and then it means this thing that your specific concept or your specific submission is appropriate. If that is not, then again there is a problem. Demonstrate the community support. If you will fail to provide the community support, that how your community or the stakeholder are going to help you, that is also a problem. Normally the stakeholder normally don't like this thing. They are asking you that, come on, tell us that if you are going to work with any community or any project or any with specific audience, what kind of support will be there from their side. So you have to justify that thing, and also provide enough evidence about the project and program, which will become self-efficient, and it will also become like sustainable by its own when the grant will be completed. You have to provide the justification. When you will provide those justification, so the grantor and the donor will come to know that your things are appropriate, and they will definitely see that, and they will logically create the things. So it is important, and it is very interesting also to see all those discussions. And if you will also fail to provide the specific directions which they have given in the application, so they will definitely not consider your application. So try to follow the instructions, and follow the instructions which are given, follow the directions which they have given, follow all those guidelines which they have given to you. If you will fail to follow all these steps, so definitely your application is good for nothing. So these steps, and one more thing, most of the time people are using like jargons, they are using like acronyms and stuff, but they are not mentioning the length, that whatever they have mentioned. First of all, try to avoid. But if you want to write the acronyms or jargons, so in 1 page or 2 page, wherever, like in the beginning or in the end, try to have an attachment in which it will be showing that what are the lengths of this specific acronyms or jargons. So you have to mention that thing. If you will not mention those details of it, that is useless then. So you have to mention the detail, that what specific acronym you are using and what is the length of that thing, or what are those details. When you will be done with that, so it will be a kind of justifiable thing which can be achieved and done. Meanwhile, we will also see the step number 13, and that is characteristics of successful grant. And in that successful grants, we will be doing what you will be mentioning, like preliminary purpose of the research through, and cover the overall, like cover every single detail of your project from the start to finish. So you have to mention all those things, because these are the characteristics of good project, and if you will mention all these details, then you will be good enough to submit your proposal. And the applicant research perspective about the funders or whatever, like those details are, so you have to be mentioning and providing these details. And the whatever your specific proposal is, it is being tailored to the each funding organization before submission. Don't do like this, that you have one specific proposal and you are submitting it to everybody. It can never be done. So whatever proposal you are writing, try to modify that one, try to change that one according to different donors or different requirements. So when you will be doing those things according to different donors, then you can achieve your specific things in an appropriate way. The application or whatever the agencies, their guidelines are provided, so you have to provide that and attach every single thing before the deadline, and it should deliver to them. Proposal clearly explain the entire project. It should be explaining the entire project, that whatever you have been discussing. And then you will also provide all these details about the budget section, about other sections, goals, specific resources. And narrative section of the project is to answer every possible question of the project. When you will answer every single question of the project, then it's a kind of good thing. Now coming ahead to the last step, which is of grant writing. The last step is your general tips, because these tips are very important. Pay attention to the agency's key interest, organize the ideas through the number of list, write carefully, customize the proposal, and further, like, go after the grant of all size. Don't think that you cannot do it, you can do everything. Don't give up, keep on writing, research every single detail of the project, and to make sure that if it is feasible before applying for the grant or not. If it cannot be done, if you cannot submit your proposal, then never go ahead for that. But always do things, because you can do everything. You can write the proposal, and many people in the world, they have been writing and they are making good money and they are getting a lot of funds. So you can also do that thing. It is based on you, like it depends like how you are going to tackle that thing. So look for the funding dossiers that also typically fund the similar projects. If you have applied for one project and you think that there are other similar projects also, so you have to apply for those things also. And coming ahead, consider the local grants funding also, because those local organizations mostly prefer you because they know you very well, and they have their credibility on you, or maybe like their loyalty and other stuff. So it will reflect. If you have local sources, so try to apply for the local sources as well. So if you are ignoring the local sources, so it means this thing that is your failure. You should also consider your local sources also. State the grant writing and applicant process as soon as possible. Like that is sorry, I've just mentioned one thing. This is the not state. This is start the grant writing or that application process as soon as possible, as when you will be doing that thing. And further, if the funders does not provide any specific format, then you have to use any standard format. You can search that one online and you can submit that thing. And further, you have to submit the grant proposal before the deadline and make sure that it reaches to the funding organization in time. If it is going to reach to them very late, then your specific project is useless. You should become closely familiar with all the criteria related to the program for which the grant is being sorted, because if you are not going to meet all those things, then again there are some doubts. So these are few tips. These tips are important for your proposal success winning points. Being a good project manager, know how to explain and lead and deliver the project, all those details. Know the grantee, know your grantee, that for whom you are going to write. Understand the organization and provide the funds to understand their goals, and further like align your proposal to them. If you are not going to align your specific project with their goals and targets, then that mismatch will be mentioned in that, and your project will be again went into the failure points. So we have to be providing the appropriate information so that we will give them reflection that okay, we are good enough. And further, you have to make sure that your idea or your services are unique. They are not being already funded by the government. It should be unique. Or if your model is unique, sometimes they will not ask for the unique idea. They will just ask that this is the extension of the project. But most of the time you have to provide your specific unique idea, which will definitely help you in winning different grants, and ensure that the benefit of the grantee from the different grants are tangible, measurable benefits, or whatever the wide spectrum that you are discussing. So that is going to provide value to those people, or if you are getting that money, so it is going to help out some people in return. And further, like if you really want to make the money, then spend the time to put it together correctly. And don't think about any shortcut, because grant writing needs a lot of time. If you really want to have the funding from the donor, so don't think about any shortcut. Give as much time as you can. Give yourself enough time so that you don't throw the proposal together to meet the deadline. You have to give enough time so that it is excellent proposal with the excellent package, with the excellent things, and everything is being appropriately submitted and corrected. Then you can justify your points and stuff like that. Always consider these steps are important. These tips are very important. This is step number 14, which is the last, but these tips are important. We can hear that one so that your justification will be good enough in that. And it is good idea to apply for the grant for the several sources. Any idea, for example, individual grants, either or they are being requested. So we have to provide all these things and understand the amount of work that's required before the start, because if you don't understand the work for the proposal, that how much time normally it takes, then you will be not in a position to submit your proposal on time. Once you find the right grant, then tailor that specific plan, whatever your plan is, according to that specific opportunity. This is also your tip that you have to write, and write your grant proposal clearly with boldly, and keep your data in accessible form, in organized form. Don't be afraid to get personal. So you can be personal with the things, involve yourself, involve your stakeholder, begin early as soon as you can, and apply early, and plus often as you can do that thing. Don't forget to include the cover letter, but sometime it will not be required. Only at that time when you are going to apply for the grants of the federal, like US Department of State or some other organizations, They may not be in need of that. They will mention they might have one specific software, so on based of software basis maybe you need not to submit them. But if they will specify that you have to submit a cover letter, then you should mention that one in the federal funding also. And answer all question, preempt all unstated questions. Like you have to assume that if something is not being addressed, so you have to do that thing. If rejected, revise your proposal and apply again, and things it will give you the situation, give them what they want, and follow the application instructions carefully, and be explicit and be specific and be realistic and clear your specific thing. Make explicit connection between the problem statement, your objectives, your methods, your design, your evaluation method, and everything, and follow the application exactly. Prepare an outline, identify what the project is in need of in generating the funds. So this was all about the project like grant proposal writing and whatever we discussed. This is just like a brief scenario of all those situations that we were discussing, but it is again very important. Before closing that one, I would like to tell you that grant writing is a good field. Like if somebody wants to write their own grants just as a profession, as a freelancer or consultant also, so they can make a good money. And plus a lot of people like this time they are making like $100+ like per hour minimum. They are making $100 per hour. So all those people who are good enough and they want to do something, they can also achieve all those things. And further, we have just received one question that Aslam, he is a professor. Muhammad Aslam Buzdar is saying this thing that can I apply for the grant being a university professor, and also share the link where I can know the type of funding is this. Definitely you can apply for the grants if you are a faculty member or consultant or researcher or individual also. You can apply for grants. Even those links which I have mentioned to you just a while before, if I will show you those links again. So these links were the links which we discussed in the beginning, like grants.gov. Here also, when you will search the grants related to your own country, or sometime if you want to write any specific area, like for example entrepreneurship or social enterprise or something, like it will give you the detail that either these fundings are available or not. So you will write all those details and you will mention, for example, like country details. So it is giving you all detail that what grants are available, and in each grant it will show you here that who are eligible, what organizations are eligible, additional eligibility criteria. In each project it is giving you those details. So when you will read the instructions, so it will provide you the detail that either you are from the non-profit organization, for-profit organization, or whatever the organizations are. So based on that, it can also provide you the detail that some grants are also for the individual also, but you have to write that thing in the search column and you have to filter that thing. And these all are the websites that we discussed, that there are different grants. These grants are not all the time for the non-profit organizations. Sometimes they are for non-profit, sometimes they are for non-government, sometimes they are for institutions, educational institutions, and sometimes they are for individuals, professors, donors, like individual consultants. All these things, like it can be mentioned in different ways, that based on what, like this was also the UN based website, that UN website that we were discussing. Also there are again like scholarships which you can apply for, so kindly consider these also. Like there are multiple scholarships available which you can go ahead, and definitely if you will just write all those grants even in the Google also, so you can get all these grants information from that point also. But discussing all these points, the main purpose of this is only one, that we should have access to a lot of things, and you can apply for as many grants as you can. And definitely hope so we will be having many more sessions to discuss about the grant writing, and we will also announce that specific certification program in which you can also attain your certificate of the grant proposal writer. So hope so. If there are some other questions, so definitely I would love to answer those questions. But if somebody is having right now any questions, so if they will just revisit this entire video and they will read, they will listen everything, and they want to write something, so it will clearly define all those things. Again, I want to recap everything we discussed in today's this gathering and today's session. In total, we discussed like 14 steps, and those 14 steps are very important for proposal, grant proposals. So you have to follow all those 14 steps, because if you don't have the understanding about some specific elements, then your project is useless. I hope so. We will meet again, and we will also try to write a kind of entire proposal while being taking questions from you all, and we will try to address every single point. Hope to see you again, and have a good day. Those people who are in different countries, have a good night and have a good time. Have a good